Bunions are one of the most misunderstood musculoskeletal issues we are faced with today. This is a shame since they affect more than 65 million Americans and millions more around the globe. Yet the fixes for this problem are actually pretty simple. So in this video, I'll be taking you through the common causes of bunions and how to fix them. For those of you who are new to the channel, my name is Chris and I'm a sports and exercise scientist. This channel is dedicated to teaching you how to build athleticism from the ground up. Our feet form the foundation for our upright bodies and are the only connection we have with the ground for all upright movements. We ought to then pay close attention to how our feet are behaving if we want to perform at our best and remain injury-free. Bunions are one of the signs that our feet are dysfunctional. Known as hallux valgus in the scientific literature, bunions are the result of a misaligned great toe whereby the first metatarsal head shifts its position laterally towards the other four toes instead of maintaining a proper straight line of action. Over time, the metatarsal phalangeal joint, also known as the MTP joint or MPJ, at the base of the big toe starts to protrude and become inflamed. This often leads to discomfort during physical exercise and even basic actions such as walking. So what causes bunions and how can we fix them? Well, there are three primary causes of bunions which we will cover first and then follow that up with a 5-step plan to overcome these issues. The first and probably the greatest cause of bunions is wearing shoes that have a narrow toe box. You see, our toes are made to be independent of one another for the simple reason that they spread or splay apart to grip the ground and increase our base of support during load-bearing tasks. After all, the feet have to balance and support our tall, upright bodies. Therefore, having the ability to increase one's base of support through toe spread is an obvious characteristic we should try and preserve. Well, unfortunately, the rounded, narrow, and pointy toe box design of modern footwear does not accommodate this natural toe movement. While this design may be desirable for the fashion runway, it is not good for our feet. These pointy toe boxes squeeze our poor toes together and prevent the natural spread or splay from occurring. The great toe, being pressed up against the edges of the shoe, experienced the brunt of this non-ergonomic design. Over time, the big toe will actually start to conform to the shape of the shoe. This is how the misalignment of the big toe, known as hallux valgus or bunions, actually begins. This makes sense when you consider how incredibly adaptable our bodies are. When we break a bone, for example, a cast is used to force the bone to grow back in proper alignment. Similarly, we can see how, due to certain ancient traditions in Africa and China, external accessories have been used to purposely manipulate the foot and neck shape. Well, our modern footwear is no different. If we spend enough time in modern shoes, our feet will conform to their shape. The next cause of bunions is poor ankle mobility, particularly in dorsiflexion, that is, drawing your toes back towards your shins. You see, when we walk and get into the terminal stance phase of the gait cycle, just before our foot lifts off the ground, the ankle of the back leg dorsiflexes or bends forward. This is really important because this position enables us to take longer strides. Otherwise, we would just shuffle around, which not only looks weird, but is also extremely inefficient. Now, when our ankles are tight, our brain hunts for extra range of motion around this area in an attempt to remain efficient. The default compensation is to use the arch as a second ankle by spinning the foot out, pronating, and collapsing the foot arch. In this way, we can artificially claim back the lost range of motion in the ankle joint and keep our stride length normal. But there are obvious side effects to this. I won't mention them all in this video, we'll focus only on what happens in the toe area. Check what happens to the big toe when this duck-footed walking pattern is activated. Every step places extreme side loading onto the toes instead of the natural flexing we see when the feet are pointed straight. It's the side loading that places valgus or bunion strain on the big toe. Alright, so the last major cause of bunions is flat feet, particularly acquired flat feet, which is also known as fallen arches. I won't go too deeply into the topic of flat feet because we have posted content specifically on this subject in the past, which you can find linked in the description below. But with regard to understanding the connection between fallen arches and bunions, we need to look at how our weight is distributed over the feet in these different shapes. When the arch is prominent and raised up, the weight is distributed along the outside of the foot in a convex shape, as can be seen in these footprints. This loading pattern keeps the big toes pushed towards each other, helping us to maintain correct alignment from the midfoot to the tip of the toes. However, when the arch collapses, the weight distribution shifts onto the inside of the feet and changes to a concave shape pattern. In this way, the big toes are loaded in a way that pushes them apart from each other into that misaligned bunion shape, known as hallux valgus. Okay, now that we have covered the 3 main causes of bunions, let's dive into the 5-step plan to resolve these issues and hopefully improve the alignment of our feet. The first step is to select shoes with a wide enough toe box to accommodate the width of your forefoot and toes. If you have followed our channel for a while, you'll know that we are strong advocates of barefoot shoes. Basically, barefoot shoes are designed to protect the feet from the elements without changing our posture or blocking the sensory input we receive from the ground. If you want to learn more about barefoot shoes, then be sure to check out all our reviews linked below, particularly the video in which we cut open a pair of barefoot shoes and compare them to a pair of popular cushioned running shoes. Anyway, one of the features that all well-designed barefoot shoes have is a wide toe box that can accommodate the natural toe spread or splay that I described earlier. An easy way to see if your shoes have enough room in the forefoot is to flip one of them over and place your foot on top of the undersole. A toe box of sufficient width should comfortably fit all your toes and have a bit of extra room to accommodate the spread that occurs naturally during weight bearing. To double check, one can also pull out the inner sole of the shoe and check the toe box width in that way. In either test, if any of the toes spread out past the outside edges of the soles, as can be seen in this pair I'm testing, then it is a clear indication that your toes will be forced together and out of proper alignment, causing the hallux valgus shape we are trying to avoid. So in summary, the first step to improving the alignment of our toes and avoiding unnecessary bunion strain is to select shoes that are wide enough in the front to accommodate our toes and their spread during walking. You can check out all the shoes that my team and I personally use and recommend linked down below in the description. Furthermore, because footwear is so important, I'm thinking I should maybe seek out the absolute best shoes for bunions. Let me know down in the comments if that is a video you'd like to see. And once we've made it, I'll pin a link to it in the comments too. Okay, moving on. The next step to this 5-part plan is to use silicone toe spreaders. These small and flexible silicone accessories fit between your toes to help separate them from one another. This can be very helpful to push the big toe back into alignment, which is the goal we are trying to achieve here. A study conducted in 2017 on 90 people with moderate to severe bunions proved the effectiveness of silicone toe spreaders for bunion correction. The participants were split into 2 groups of 45 people each. Both the control and experimental groups were given unrestricted shoes with a wide toe box and flat soles. However, the experimental group were also provided with silicone toe spreaders to use every evening for a few hours. After 12 months, the group that used silicone toe spreaders in conjunction with the correct footwear showed a significantly greater improvement than the group that only changed their shoes. So the silicone toe spreaders worked great. In fact, it was found that the average bunion angle in the control group that only changed their shoes actually worsened. So what the secondary finding shows us is that once we have developed a bunion and lost the natural alignment of the great toe, even if we wear the correct shoes that have a wide toe box, there is no guarantee that the toes will spread to fill that larger space. It's almost like they have been trained to be together and we actually have to nudge them apart with these gel spaces to teach them how to spread out properly to fill the wider shoes. But we can take this even further by also looking at the socks that we wear, which is the next step in this plan. Socks, like most shoe designs, have a narrow and rounded shape in the front. This is unlike our foot, which is naturally straight along the medial edge and rounds out only gradually on the lateral side. Sock designers also take for granted the separation of the toes. So again, you're faced with the issue described in the footwear section of this video, whereby the narrow forefoot squeezes all the toes together and prevents them from moving independently of one another. To show you just how natural it is to have the freedom to spread and wiggle your toes, here is a clip of my newborn unconsciously moving her toes continuously while chilling on my lap. I've been fascinated to see how her feet are developing and plan to do content on child foot development in the future. Subscribe to not miss out on those videos. So to overcome this issue, you can buy socks that have compartments for each toe. At first, I found it weird to feel material between all my toes, but I've since gotten used to them and actually quite like the feeling now. Obviously, having the ability to freely move the toes is a great sensation too. Anyways, continuing with this multi-factor approach to fixing bunions, let's move on to the next step, which is to focus on ankle mobility. As explained earlier, tight ankles promote a toed out walking pattern, which causes the foot arch to collapse inwards and pronate, placing a lot of bunion strain on the big toes. Now, in order to improve the ankle's ability to dorsiflex during walking, the best thing to do is to spend time practicing in the position of restriction. In this case, I'm talking about the part of the gait cycle just before the back leg starts to lift from the ground to push off. So I'll exaggerate this position by taking a longer step forward while still maintaining the back heel on the ground. If you have tight ankles, you will feel like the back foot wants to spin out. Avoid this by focusing on trying to keep the foot pointed straight. Pressing your toes into the ground will also help stabilize the arch to maximize the mobility through the ankle joint rather than in the foot, which is our intent here. Then, with the back leg extended, slowly bend the front leg forward into a partial lunge. If you keep the back heel on the ground, you will feel a nice stretch all the way up the back of the leg. This is a sign that you're doing it correctly. We cover ankle mobility in much greater detail in our online programs. We show you how to test to see if you have asymmetries between your legs and how to overcome these imbalances. We also include a variety of mobility drills to attack any kind of restriction in this area. Links to our programs are in the description below, together with everything else mentioned in this video, such as the silicone toe spreaders and toe socks. Okay, now onto the fifth and final step to fix bunions. This final stage involves building up the foot arch through foot strengthening exercises. What I will show you in this video is probably our most primitive foot exercise, which can be practiced anywhere. It involves simply spreading out your toes as far apart from one another as possible and then contracting them together with a good amount of effort. This is the exercise that newborn babies unconsciously use to build up their foot strength before crawling and walking. Here is a short clip of my 1-month-old practicing her foot exercises. It has been incredible to witness just how wide she can spread her toes and with such control. This action is unconscious for her, which tells me that performing this move is an aspect of the innate intelligence we are all born with. Furthermore, this exercise acts as a sort of litmus test to see whether you have control over your toes and are able to spread them wide apart. I found that many of us struggle to move the toes in this way. This is due to years of our feet being confined by the modern shoe design, which prevents independent toe movement. It's a simple case of use it or lose it. We see the same thing in one's ability to deep squat throughout one's life. So, while relaxing at home, barefoot on the sofa, use this simple toe spreading and squeezing exercise to slowly regain mobility, strength, and control of your foot arch and toes. This is an exercise that is totally safe to do often because we are not loading the tissues with any weight. Once you have a good grasp of this exercise, be sure to check out our Strong Feet, Strong Foundation program, which includes all the foot strengthening exercises and tools that you need to build your athleticism from the ground up. Well, that concludes our 5-step plan to fix bunions. There's just one more piece of info I'd like to add. If a bunion has progressed to the point that arthritis has developed in that area due to the chronic inflammation that is usually present with severe bunions, then some of these methods, such as the silicone toe spreaders, might not be suitable. In these extreme cases, it's best to seek out a good podiatrist to help you out. Personally, I'm fond of professionals who don't just myopically throw an orthotic or surgical blade at every problem. Rather, I would seek out a specialist who is well read in all forms of treatment, both invasive and non-invasive, and is determined to help you identify and resolve the root cause of your problem. One such example is world-renowned podiatrist Dr. Emily Splickle. We did a super interesting podcast with her on foot health and performance, which I'll link down below in the description. Well, that concludes this video. If you found the information useful, then please do hit that like button because it helps extend the video's reach. Also, subscribe and ring that notification bell to get alerted whenever we make a new video. Until then, cheers.